Monday Night Wars podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Monday Night Wars. You like how I just completely deadpanned that?
Yeah, I actually wasn't ready yet. My wife said text me, so I was like, "Oh shit! Oh, he sent this message."
I know, it was good. It was good. I'm Scott, and sending a text is Joseph, and together we are the Monday Night Wars podcast, YouTube's favorite podcast that is doing day or week by week accounting of the Monday Night Wars at this very moment in time.
Yes.
I tried to get as specific as I could so you couldn't really dispute it. Kind of like an ESPN stat.
Yeah.
Like,
at the time of recording, yeah.
It's a Tuesday in June, and just. But anyways, let's get into it because it is May 12th, 1997, and we are live with WCW Nitro at the Baltimore Arena in Baltimore, Maryland. And if I'm not mistaken, because I didn't write it down, but I think we're still on a short schedule, are we not?
Let me see. I got to look at how many segments we have.
Looks
here.
Short.
Yeah, it looks pretty short to me.
And one of the reasons we picked this year, because we've been talking about kind of doing this, but then we looked and the dates lined up perfectly.
Yeah.
For 1997 with this year. And we were like, well, this is a sign from God.
Well,
that we have to do it.
Technically 1995 lined up perfectly when we started this podcast. Because if you're new on YouTube, and we've been actually having a very successful couple weeks. We're at over 400 subscribers. Hopefully by the time this drops, we'll be over 500, which means we'll have hit 2 of our quotas to actually get monetized for this show. So we have that going for us. We're doing really well. Thank you everybody who's new and subscribing. If you are new and you don't know how this has gone on for quite some time, this is kind of why I was getting to this point. We started this at the beginning of the Monday Night Wars, the very first episode of Nitro going, not technically that wasn't head to head, but it was the first episode of Nitro. So we started that because it actually lined up in perfect succession with where that would have been in 1995, where we are today, I guess technically then. You get my point. So every single week that we're doing one of these, this is lining up exactly with the episode that would have happened at that time. By sheer dumb luck, that all panned out for us. So unfortunately, those aren't video episodes, those are all audio. But the great thing about YouTube is you can actually just exit out of the app and listen to it like a radio show. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
like a podcast.
Yeah, like the OG podcast. Back in my day, podcasts were only audio.
And I will say, if we do get monetized, then we can afford fancy production quality stuff like noise compression, because apparently someone complained.
That's true. That's so
that we don't. And I will say that we don't do noise compression. And I will say, for the record, sir, we do noise compression. We're just not very good at it.
You said do.
It's that thing you do, you know?
There you go.
But we do noise compression, and we're just not very good at it because we have no idea what we're doing. This is a DIY podcast. Just 2 dudes that were watching the Monday Night Wars together, and we were stupid enough to go, hey, we could do a podcast about it.
Yeah, and then it's been hell ever since.
And then we're stuck. We are stuck. But people are liking it. They're commenting. They're subscribing. They're sending us hate mail now. We have made it.
It's not about the destination. It's about the journey and the enemies you make along the way. That's the saying, right?
You fucking suck. We're just trying to do something fun for you. What?
Yeah. To be clear,
what the shit?
We have significantly more positive audience members who have been incredible. Ronnie, no joke. We call there's a person that we call Butt Munch because that's his screen name. That's all we know him as.
Love him.
Matt Merks, Alex. It was Alex Young, I think, who just subscribed to our Patreon. We got a number of Patreon subscribers. So
Is
if
that
you want
baseball player,
Alex Young.
Yeah, I feel like that's a name I've heard before.
You've thrown me for a loop now because now I thought it was Anyways, whatever. Well, he looks that up. If you want to actually support the podcast, easiest way to do it is through Patreon. $2 a month, you get every single pay-per-view episode. And when we get to the Thursday night episodes, we'll be doing those there too. Anyways, we should probably get back to this one while Scott has an answer for who that person is.
American professional baseball pitcher in the Cincinnati Reds organization. I told you, bro, Tim.
Wow.
Yeah, guaranteed.
I'm going to laugh when his name wasn't Alex Young and it was something else, and I just butchered it. Andrew Young, actually, I think is what it was.
The beautiful thing about baseball players is I could probably find an Andrew Young, too. It's a deep system. But anyways, let's get back to the podcast at hand, because I don't listen to podcasts that go off topic. We are, as I said, we're at Baltimore, Maryland. We got Tony, Bobby, and Larry. And we get the Macho Man, don't we, Joseph?
We do. Before we get into that, I will let you know this episode is going to have a lot of rants because there's some interesting stuff that happens, some interesting, some not so interesting. We're going to start off right at the gate with a rant. The person who introduces Macho Man is Michael Buffer. Now, if you don't somehow know who Michael Buffer is, Michael Buffer was essentially like the only household name announcer when it came to like boxing. Like he was the guy, and specifically from like the 80s through the 90s all the way up until like the early 2000s, that dude cost a lot of money. So I went down through a rabbit hole the other day looking at this because my thought was, how much is WCW paying Michael Buffer instead of just having an in-house announcer, which they do? David Penzer is their in-house announcer. Michael Buffer specifically is known for the phrase, let's get ready to, and then a word that comes after that I don't know if we can actually say because he has it trademarked or copywritten or whatever.
No way.
Yes, that's true. So
that's wild.
Yes, it's absolutely a thing. So if you ever played the game, let's get ready to blank, and it's the boxing game, that's why, because it's called that's his phrase. So anyways, he has that
we can bleep now on the podcast, right?
That's
is
true.
That a feature we have on the podcast? You should just bleep.
I'll let you use your imagination.
Anyways, I interrupted you.
Anyway, so he has that phrase trademarked. Apparently he trademarked it in 1992. By that point, he was so big, he knew people wanted to hear it. So WCW would have to pay him to appear per show. And then on top of that, pay an additional fee for him to say, let's get ready to blank every single time. Per Eric Bischoff on his 83 Weeks podcast, quote, I think he was commanding a much larger price, but every time he would say, ready to rumble, which I didn't say the first part, so that's not catchphrase, he would get $5,000 every time he said it. Yeah, end quote. So $5,000 per use of the phrase on top of what is easily at this point $100,000 per appearance. And I am lowballing because this is the height of this dude. He is absolutely massive. So let's say it's $100,000. In 1997 alone, he was in 12 pay-per-views plus 2 Clash of the Champions. So 14 appearances, not including every Nitro like this one that he's been in. He hasn't been in all of them. Some people say he's in all of them. He's not, but he is in important ones. So for just that, this dude got paid $2.4 million a year on top of the at least $120,000 just to say, let's get ready to blank. I almost said it, by the way. I looked up David Penzer and what he made, and there is no exact figure, just like there technically isn't for Michael Buffer. But their standard ring announcer made a few tens of thousands a year. So just a phenomenal waste of money. Just insane. Just literally throwing money down the toilet.
WCW.
Yeah. It's wild. I couldn't believe, I was like, it's gotta be, I figured worst case scenario, they're paying him $200,000. It cost them $60,000 for David Penzer.
You know, I feel like at the main event of the pay-per-view, I feel like there it's kinda you can kinda justify it, right? Because he was kind of synonymous with if you had Michael Buffer announcing your main event, like, that was a big deal.
Yes.
This was a serious
Mhm.
thing. Like, he is the guy.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
like, I don't watch boxing. I don't know if I've ever watched a single boxing match all the way through in my life. And I know who Michael Buffer is. I know the catchphrase.
Yeah.
And so when I hear him at the WCW thing, like, oh, this is a classy event. This is a serious event. They got Michael Buffer.
Which is
But
why they did it. But
but to have him on Monday Night Raw at the start of the show to introduce the Macho Man. I love the Macho Man. But $105,000?
and
I don't know.
that's if he said it
I don't know.
once. So if you had him say it multiple times through the night, because they would do that sometimes
Mhm.
for big matches, you gotta
Yep.
pay him every time. Granted, it wasn't a per appearance for that point. It was the appearance was already there, but every time he hit that catchphrase, you had to pay him another $5,000. It's insanity. Um, yeah, just wild. Just like I said, a phenomenal waste of money. Even if I got that math wrong, you're still in the millions. Like that's insane what they were paying this guy.
Trillions.
Yeah, absolutely. Even if I got the
It's
math
still
wrong, he basically owns the entire world. You know, pretty much the same thing.
Yes.
All because of Eric Bischoff. Anyways, so as you mentioned, we do start with Mach, and Mach starts by saying, Jesus Christ. Mach starts by saying, "Ooh, yeah, I am healed, yeah." He pauses. "Last week, when DDP attacked me from behind, it pumped up my I have no idea what he says here. Adrenaline. I think he means adrenaline, but okay. He says, and I slapped him
Fine.
so hard that he's got to use my crutches." Pauses again. "If he's here, tell him to hobble on down right now, and I'll slap him. Hollywood style. Dig it. Yeah." Then he pauses again and finishes so eloquently with a, "Ooh, yeah." It's an A+. Of course I fucking love it. It's Mach.
Another masterclass, sir.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, it's just I can't really say anything more. Like, I feel like people have heard it for themselves. They can make their own decision. Every Macho Man promo is just completely off it's kind of like Ric Flair. Every
Yeah.
promo is just kind of off the rails, and I love it.
Yeah. It's gonna be funny.
I just love off the rails.
We're getting to enough listeners and viewers that someone's gonna go, "Man, your Mach is horrible. It's fuck off. I don't care. I love doing it. Doesn't matter.
No, it's not that's not what we do here.
We're positive here."
We've been going into this podcast half cocked for 3 years. And we will continue to be doing that. 'Cause that's the charm of this podcast is that we clearly have no idea what we're doing. But we're doing it for you, so you don't have to. After that, though, we got a match. We got a WCW TV title match.
Uh-huh.
And I'm gonna tell it, ladies and gentlemen, because
Yes, you have to let them know this. You have to let them know this. Go ahead.
Yes. Because, last week, we told you that, that I blew out the mic doing Juventud Guerrera,
Mhm.
and I apologized, and I
Yes.
still apologize profusely, because I know there are people that subscribe to this podcast solely to hear
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And we promised you that on the next batch of recordings, that I would have a new microphone. Well, the next batch of recordings have arrived because we were supposed to record this weekend, and Joseph was like, "Oh, I love my family, and I wanna spend time with them." So we couldn't do it. So my microphone has arrived,
Mhm.
and it has arrived just in time. Oh, you can actually kinda see it there. Let me push it back a little bit. No, I just kinda liking the shot. There we go. We're framing. We're framing. Anyways, it's prepared for this moment, and we will see if my great expense was worth it. Are we ready, Joseph? Are you ready?
I am.
Okay. Well, your attention, please. In the blue corner, wearing some like Japanese dragon looking thing, is Ultimo Dragon. And in the red corner, wearing some caliente outfit, is Juventud Guerrera. Tell me about this match.
I'm gonna be so
Which
upset
is,
if
let me
it
see how,
eliminates that.
let me see how long it is. I don't even know because we're not keeping time. We're not keeping time on these matches anymore.
Oh, that's
Oh,
beautiful.
I wrote it down. It's about 5 minutes. Tell me.
Beautiful. And I gotta say, that was a masterclass performance. I loved every moment of that.
Thank you.
Moving
Thank you.
on to this banger match, we have Lord Steven Regal as a picture-in-picture where he talks about Ultimo Dragon, and he has something that means a lot to him, which is the World TV title. He may not be able to moonsault or Hurricane Rana, but he can out-wrestle anyone, even your Flairs and Hogans. He says he is going away from his nobility and returning to his dirty, rotten scoundrel Blackpool roots. Really fun little promo. Also, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, really underrated film.
And his Blackpool roots,
Yeah.
he should form a combat club.
The joke is so stupid.
You love it.
I do. It's great. This is a fun, high-flying match that, of course, sees Sonny Ono cheap shot Hoovy a number of times, and Dragon picks up the win with an avalanche Hurricane Rana, and then the Dragon Sleeper. I'm giving it a B. A lot of fun.
Well, all right then. Yeah. You know, you always give such just great things. I'm like, I got nothing more to say. It's an Ultimo Hoovy match. Yeah, it's good. But let's move on to even.
I wish that was even
better.
I wish that was my review. It's an Ultimo Hoovy match. It's good. Moving on.
It's good. Forget about it, all right? But what's next? What's next is even better. Because we got Kevin Green. Love Kevin Green. We got Rowdy Roddy Piper. And we have Ric Flair. And these two together is some of the most insane mic work I have ever heard.
Yes.
Like, in my mind, I kind of see that. Remember Night at the Roxbury? You know, Chris Kattan and Will Ferrell, and they'd sandwich a girl, and they'd just be like, "How you doing? How you doing? How you doing?" I just see Rowdy Roddy Piper and Ric Flair doing that. They're nuts, and they're always making weird sexual references.
Would absolutely sandwich a girl.
Well, they're always making weird sexual references, which happens in this. There is an oral sex reference, and it's wild. The whole thing is wild. Tell me.
I don't even have that on here. You'll have to enlighten me. I forgot that one. Anyways, Mean Gene starts by asking Kevin Green, if you remember last week, Kevin Green grabbed the mic from Flair. He's about ready to say some shit. And then they went, now we're cutting to Public Enemy, which was an absolute waste of time. We should have gone with Kevin Green. Anyways, he asks if Kevin Green is chomping at the bit. And Green says he has never lost in Charlotte. He is undefeated.
Oh.
He tells the NWO there are 3 definitive things in this world. 1, taxes. 2, death. 3, in Charlotte at Slamboree, I'm going to break my foot off in your ass. And I laughed. It was fantastic. I hope that was a good sip of Pepsi there, sir.
That was fantastic.
Flair says, Flair goes up next, and he says that Sunday the NWO can count on them showing up. And then Piper says he has had some fights in this building. He says the NWO claims there's some big lions, tigers, and bears. This is not the Wizard of Oz, and I ain't Dorothy, which I thought was a great, great absurd line. He says he is a dinosaur, like they say. He's a T-Rex, and in Charlotte, he will be starving. Now, up to this point, I have loved this. And then We get Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and Six on the screen that is very, very small and kind of hard to see. It's not a Titantron. There's nothing Titan about this. It is very small. Six says Flair's. Go ahead.
They roll out the TV that you used to have in high school when you'd have a substitute teacher and you'd watch Bill Nye, this men's guy. They just kind of roll that TV out onto the Nitro stage. And
could you imagine though? Could you imagine if they did that? You just heard Bill. Be so Bill. So good,
bro. If we were running a wrestling promotion, we'd do that shit. I mean, we'd roll it out with and put the video in. Like just for the lulls, it'd be hilarious.
Yeah, but what you have to do is you have to do that, and then you have to film the CRV TV, and that has to get played up on the Titantron.
100%.
So the whole point of it is useless, but that's what's great. Anyways, so the three outsiders, I'm calling all three of them outsiders because they really are. They're on the screen, and Six says Flair's old lady is leaving his hotel room, being Six, not Flair. Hall says they aren't in the arena because there isn't enough cheese to go with all that wine. Fucking got him. Nash lets them know this match will be no DQ. And honestly, this segment got really weird when the NWO took over. It was really fun. And then they went on, and I really, really reduced what they said because they just keep going and they're just rambling. And normally we love it when these three guys are having fun, but this was weird.
Yeah. Well, the NWO seems, we've been talking about the Kevin Nash stuff where he's just kind of clearly doesn't give a shit right now. And he just seems to be purposely dragging these things out for some weird reason.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if they gave him a time limit and he's just like, whatever, I'll just fill it. But the oral sex reference is actually from the outsiders because when they pop up, they offer them an all-you-can-eat buffet down there. I was like, what the fuck?
I don't.
Is that like a gay joke? But if it is, who's calling who gay in that situation? I don't understand.
You're so gay, you'd blow me. Wait, what? Yeah.
Well, to be fair, that feels like a very 90s kind of thing you would do. You're it's like no, doesn't that make you kind of gay? No. It was ridiculous, and I loved it. No, it was fine.
Yeah, I will say I gave this a C. It started off great, kind of ended weird. I enjoyed the great stuff.
I am enjoying Kevin Green, Roddy Piper, and Ric Flair. Roddy and Flair bouncing off one another is fun because they're just absurd.
Yes,
and Kevin Green is the football player we should have got.
Yes,
but instead, may God rest his soul. We got Steve Mongo McMichael, who's in the next match. It's Steve versus Dean Malenko. Tell me about this one, Joseph. It's about 3 minutes.
Mongo is dominating when Reggie White, another football player we didn't ask for, runs out and he hits a clothesline, kind of, and a running splash, kind of. Jarrett argues with Reggie White, who pushes him off of the apron. Malenko rolls up Mongo for the win. This was boring. Gene then interviews Reggie after the match, and he says that this is a result of what Mongo had to say about Green Bay. Reggie says, if you talk about me, fine, but when you bring up my family or the Green Bay fans, I take it personally. And then at this moment, this actually made me laugh. Reggie White was on Green Bay for a very short period of time in comparison to Philadelphia with the Eagles. That was the most of his career. So he realizes this, and he goes, or the Philadelphia fans. And I laughed so fucking hard when he does that because he about to piss off a bunch of inbred dudes. Anyways,
wow. Wow. I was going to say, and Philadelphia fans are people you don't want to mess with, but you just went straight and kicked that hornet's nest. Not to again make a dick joke, but you didn't just kick it; you stuck your dinghy in it. I mean, that's how crazy that comment was. Philadelphia now hates us. And
To
that's
be
a good
fair.
wrestling town, too, that
Yeah.
you have just made hate.
That is true. He then brings up the
To be
Packers.
fair, what?
Yeah, well, I don't remember where I was going with it. He then brings up the Packers and Bears rivalry, and then it ends. And this gets a D for me. Other than him realizing he should probably acknowledge the team he's known for, it's not that interesting.
Well, and I'm trying to think, does anything come of this? Does he actually wrestle at any
I
point?
think
I don't remember.
I think they have a blow-off match at the next pay-per-view. It's coming up next week.
It must be. We'll find out. It
Yes.
must be so bad that I blacked it out because I do not remember this. But we'll talk if it happens. We'll talk about it next week on the Patreon because that's where the pay-per-views come to play, baby. What?
I loved it.
Anyways, we need a palate cleanse.
Yeah.
We need a palate cleanse.
Absolutely.
And thank God we've got Lee Marshall. And he is in what? And he's in Asheville, North Carolina. Joseph, tell me about Lee in Asheville, North Carolina.
Real quick, we are recording this at an abnormal time for both of us, so we're just going off the rails, and you're along for the ride, and I love it, frankly.
It's
go ahead.
7:56 p.m. and it's way past my bedtime.
Yeah, Scott was born 87, so this is way
I'm
past.
delirious.
Scott was never in World War II, but he remembers it. You know what I mean? Anyways, like you said, he's in Asheville, North Carolina. He tells the commentators that when they get to Asheville, make sure they drive along the Blue Ridge Parkway. It's considered the most scenic roadway in all of America, which is true. And also, I'll probably have a little picture that shows up on this. It is gorgeous, just based off that picture alone. He then tells them to visit the Biltmore Estate, which has 250 rooms and sits on 8,000 acres. It is the largest home in America. He lets us know, however, before they drop in, they are pretty strict at the Biltmore. The first thing you'll see is a giant sign that reads, "No shoes, no shirts, no weasels." This doesn't actually make any sense, but I still love it, and it's getting an A+.
The dumber, the better. Like,
Yes.
who cares?
Yeah.
Just, you got to get Weasel in there somewhere. Just do it. And I'm fine. As long as Weasel is in there.
I will say, if you comment on this, negative comments, and you talk about me or my family, that's fine, but you do not touch Lee Marshall. That man is a fucking saint.
And Weasels. And Weasels. Yeah. Well, after that, we've got the American male because he's Scotty Riggs because he's still wearing kind of the American male gear, even though Buff is gone. And yeah, so we got Scotty Riggs versus Wrath.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Mm-hmm.
For a minute.
At first, one
single minute.
At first, we don't know it's Wrath, by the way. We assume it's Mortis because they don't tell us it's Wrath. And James Vanderbeek comes out and he says that for weeks you have speculated on the identity of our mysterious ally. We haven't. And you've seen what he can do. Meh. Tonight, I reveal his name. And then he says, you will face the Wrath. That's how they reveal his name. His name is the thing that you will face. Whatever. It's fucking stupid. Wrath goes down. He wins easily. Then Glacier comes out, and mind you, for weeks, Glacier's gotten the shit kicked out of him by these two.
Yes.
So how does Glacier respond to that? He comes right out to that entrance ramp, and wouldn't you know it, he just stares at them. And then we cut to commercial.
Well, he was trying to use his cold breath because he's got cold breath like freezing people. But it was too far. It was just too far of a distance, so it didn't work. That's what I assume was happening there. I don't know. It just makes me sad because I really enjoyed Glacier in the game. I had the WCW games, and Glacier was my boy, but like Glacier on TV.
Yeah, this gets an F. It was not good.
I'm trying to think if I saw him, like if I liked him on TV too. I was like, was I just stupid?
Well, I mean, you were
Was
8, 7
12-year-old
at
me
the
just
time.
like stupid?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like 11. Thank you very much. Let's see, 97. Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I can't count. Anyways, Conan and Hugh Morris
Mhm.
versus Fire and Ice, Alex Wright and Ice Train.
Yes.
The new Fire and Ice. Yeah, it's not, but to be fair, they do not sell it as that. I'm just saying that's what it is, because
Yeah.
why not?
This is about what you'd expect it to be. Alex Wright starts showing some heel tendencies here, not really being available for Ice Train. He starts dancing around. Eventually, Teddy Long begs him to get in the ring, but he's pretty content with Ice Train getting the shit kicked out of him. At one point, Ice Train goes to tag Alex, right? But he goes, "Oh, my knee is hurted." And then he just leaves. And Teddy Long tries to get him back and he pushes Teddy Long away and he leaves. So he is now officially a heel, apparently. Morris and Conan then beat up Ice Train and win. Gets an F. I'm fine with the heel turn for Alex Wright, but this is just a bad, not fun match and waste of my time.
What if, though?
Okay.
What if this had really been the new Fire and Ice? What about if Alex Wright hadn't gone heel and he and Ice Train were now Fire and Ice? Hot or not?
Not. And here's why.
Not.
Because what you're assuming here is that we are booking the show. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah,
we
always.
if we are booking the show, Fire and Ice never breaks up.
That's true. That's true. That's truth.
World's greatest
That's
tag
truth.
team, Fire and Ice. You be talking about them with Legion of Doom, the Dudley Boys, the Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, all in the same breath.
Teddy Long would be inducting them into the Hall of Fame at WrestleMania. It'd been a beautiful thing.
Yep.
But instead, we get the Outsiders attacking Roddy Piper and his bad hip bad again.
Yeah. The Outsiders who were not
You want to say anything more?
who were not there are apparently there, and they go, we were hoodwinked. They really were here in Baltimore. All right.
Very snidely Whiplash. We were here the whole time. It's just like, normally I kind of like this kind of stuff, but like, I don't think that's a bad idea that we're pretending like we're not here and then we are here and we attack you, right? They do it all the time on wrestling. It's just, I'm kind of so over the NWO at this point, and they're totally phoning it in. It's just not fun. And what makes it even more not fun is Eric Bischoff comes out and runs his mouth. So tell me about Eric Bischoff, who should not be in the NWO.
Correct.
Tell me what Eric's got to say.
Instead of the WCW square around the mic, Bischoff has an NWO one, and that's pretty cool. I do think that's a nice touch. Bischoff wants to hear from Sting. Apparently, he is going to interview Sting, and he wants to know where he was last week. Sting's OG music hits. He has not gotten his new music yet, so it's still the standard Stinger music. And out walks, oh, wait, this is definitely fake Sting. We all know now. It's been the same fake Sting the entire time, but now we know, I guess, whatever. Anyways, he walks out. And then the crowd chants, "We want Sting," sing this ain't him. Bischoff rolls with it, saying, "They want to hear from you," which I do think is good work from Bischoff. Bischoff asks if it's true that throughout his entire career, Sting has been compared to Hollywood Hogan. That's not true, by the way. Sting doesn't say anything, or fake Sting doesn't say anything. Then he asks if it's true that Sting will never accomplish what Hollywood Hogan has accomplished. That is true, actually. Silence. Then he asks if it's true that deep inside Sting knows that he will never measure up to Hollywood Hulk Hogan, and that is not true. Anyways, still more silence, but the crowd is now in a frenzy. They want real Sting, and he comes down the ramp. He gets in the ring, and fake Sting is ready to swing at him with the bat. Real Sting pulls out his own bat, and fake Sting thinks better of this. Real Sting feints a swing and scares fake Sting. Then Real Sting drops the bat and just punches him square in the face. Instead, he hits Scorpion Death Drop and Bischoff runs away. I'm going to give this a B. I thought it was mostly fine. Specifically because we got the payoff of Sting actually showing up. If we didn't get that, I would have been really annoyed with this. So at least we got that. So I'm giving it a B. Anytime I get to see real Sting, I love Sting. Anyways, so fine.
I just still have issues with NWO Sting. I've brought this up before that I feel like they can't decide what they want to do with him. I kind of like today they're doing the angle of he's the real Sting, right? Like NWO is pretending like he's the real Sting, but sometimes they act like they know he's not the real, but other times they act like they know he's not the real Sting. And I would like it better if NWO was just it's the real Sting.
Yeah.
This is Sting. Right. And just played it like that. Because we all know it's not the real Sting. That's the humor of it, right? That, this is the real Sting. And they just can't make up their mind with it. I think it could be really fun, but instead it's just, I don't.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
But that does it for Nitro because we're on the short schedule. Our main event really was Conan versus Hugh Morris and Alex Wright and Ice Train. That was the main event.
Yeah.
Boy, howdy. Let's see what's going on over at the Bob Carpenter Center in Newark, Delaware, where we've got Raw is War, May 12th, 1997. Well, we had a pay-per-view last night, didn't we, Joseph?
We did on the Patreon if you subscribe $2 a month.
Damn! Yes, we did. And there's some highlights from the broadcast that we're not going to tell you about because you got to listen for them on the Patreon. And they dedicate the night to Rose Anderson, who is the person that died, and Vince was at the funeral. That's the person, Joseph. Yeah, so apparently it really was a person.
There you go.
That died, and Vince could not make the pay-per-view because he was at the funeral, and apparently someone important in wrestling, I guess. Which maybe I'll Google while you're telling us about the next match because apparently it's a thing. Anyways, we got Jim and we got Jerry and we got the Hart Foundation to start the show. Tell me about it because I'm going to do a little Google machining.
Yeah, they come out in full force. Bret says he surrounded himself with people he trusts. He names them all and calls Owen his lovable brother Owen, which is fantastic. And I love that he never just says Owen. He always has to say, my lovable brother Owen. He says the audience paints them as bad guys, but the audience are really the bad guys by cheering for bad guys like Stone Cold Steve Austin. He calls Austin a babbling ass full of worn out Texas cliches and barnyard overtones. He calls him a hyena again. And I got to say, I like the Texas line a lot better than the hyena line. He points out that the crowd is fine with Austin jumping people from behind, but on everyone. But the second it comes back around, the audience screams for justice. This is honestly a great observation from Bret Hart. This is what a heel should be doing. He says, what kind of hero would pick on a guy in a wheelchair? He calls Austin a loser. He says Austin couldn't even win the WWF title one time. He then says the Undertaker shouldn't get too attached to the belt because soon they will have it up here with all the other glittery gold the Hart Foundation has. He wants to say something shocking that he hasn't spoken about yet. The crowd chants Stone Cold, and Hart says he'll only tell everyone if the crowd shuts up. They don't. So he says, let's get out of here, and they leave. This is one of Bret Hart's better promos, but like most of his promos, it does go on too long, and it doesn't really send a clear message. I'm still giving it a B, though, because I thought he had some really good lines in here.
I liked that he actually played into the crowd, and if you don't show up, I'm not going to tell you. And then they don't, and he just leaves.
Yeah.
I thought that was really good. I don't know if that was the plan or if he just kind of did it like he was just feeling the crowd, but I think that was the right way to do it. I did look up Rose Anderson, and the answer is I have no idea. It is just a close family friend of the McMahons. Apparently, they called her Aunt Rose. And Vince is just pulling rank by dedicating the night to her. So there you go. But what a night to dedicate to her, because we've got the King of the Ring quarterfinals sponsored by Super Soaker. Oh, hell yeah.
See, I thought you were going to transition with after you said he's pulling rank here. I thought you were going to say, speaking of rank, and then go into our next match because it's not very good.
Oh, let's do that. And Vince is pulling rank, much like we've got the King of the Ring quarterfinal rankings, where we see Hunter Hearst Helmsley and Ahmed Johnson squaring off in the squared circle. Joseph, tell me about this 3-minute, 54-second match.
4-minute, 3-minute, 54-second match. Ahmed Johnson has 4 knee pads on, but not a single one is on either of his knees, which is hilarious. China eventually hits Ahmed with a chair and results in a DQ with Ahmed as the winner. Ahmed chases after Hunter and attacks him, and China locks a sleeper hold on him while the refs split everyone apart. WWF is trying to get creative in their booking of this because, by all accounts, Ahmed shouldn't lose this tournament due to how they presented him. This portion itself doesn't quite land for me, and I think they could have done a better job, but more on that later. I'm giving this a D. I really was not a fan of this.
Well, all right. But are you a fan of the Super Soaker commercial we get with Sonny and the Headbangers? I will say,
Yes.
I was pleasantly surprised by this Super Soaker commercial because it did not end the way I assumed it was going to. Because Sonny is wearing a white T-shirt,
Yes.
and I was like, "Oh God, what are they doing?" And then she doesn't get hit.
Yeah.
So I was like, "All right, okay,
I
okay."
haven't written down any of these, but I do remember us watching them and that being an observation because we thought for sure that it was going to be really, really risque, especially because I think 1 or 2 of them, if not not all of them, have Jerry the King Lawler in them, which it's like, oh God.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, they are quite tasteful, probably because they're for kids. So they were tasteful in these. And they're actually fun. Like they're actually like just ridiculous shenanigans and they're very kid friendly.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, thank God. All right. So we can move on.
They're just having Super Soaker fights. It's perfectly normal. But we saw Sonny. It starts off with Sonny in a white T-shirt, and we were both like, "Oh my God, what are they going to do?" Like we were both like, "Are we gonna? Is this gonna get crazy?"
Yeah.
And it didn't. But Stone Cold come out to meet Vince McMahon, and he gonna get a little crazy.
Oh, yes.
Because he got a crutch with him, and he ready to do some business. Is he not, Joseph?
He is. I love that he's holding a crutch because it's not for himself. He's just holding it. He stole it last night at a pay-per-view that we may or may not have talked about on our Patreon for $2 a month. Vince says that last night Austin had one hell of a match. And Austin replies, "You're damn right it was a hell of a match, but the last thing I need right now is to come to the ring and have you kissing up to me, because I'll knock your damn head right off your neck. As far as I'm concerned, I ain't going to make no excuse about what happened last night. Things got a little out of hand. I got dumped on my head and Undertaker won the match. But this is the point. Steve Austin, sooner or later, will be the world's champion. And if I say it, you can damn well bet it's going to come true. And that's all I got to say about that." Vince asks about the crutch, and Austin says, "I got a little souvenir from Bret Hart. And if he's got and he just pauses and says, guts," and I laughed, "to come out here and take it from me, all he's got to do is roll his little ass on down and see what kind of luck he has. Bret, you come out here and you say, you tried to be a hero. You tried to be what the people wanted you to be. You are a liar. You are the Judas Priest. You are a complete piece of human trash. Your little heart foundation that follows you around wherever you go, it's like a snake." Then he looks at Vince and he says, "You know anything about snakes, son? You ever killed a snake? Have you ever seen a snake in person?" And Vin Man says, "I'd prefer to not comment on that." And Austin just stares at him and says, "'Cause you're a chicken," and then goes on with his promo, which I laughed so hard about.
What does it even mean?
Yeah, he goes, "I know all about snakes. If you want to kill a snake, the fastest way to kill a damn thing is to get you a shovel and chop the head off. Bret Hart is the head of the snake, and it would be the easiest thing for me to do. That's exactly what I do because I can take Bret Hart out with the snap of my fingers and everyone knows it. But what I'm gonna do instead of being all business and going straight for the head, I'm going to have a little fun with it because this time I ain't going to chop the snake's head off and just end it like that. I'm going to start with the snake's ass. And you ain't got to look around with a questionable look on your face, because if there is an ass to the snake machine of the Hart Foundation, the snake's ass is Brian Pillman. Brian Pillman, I crippled your sorry carcass once before. For years and years in the Bush Leagues, I carried you right in my back pocket. But when the bell rings and you look across the ring in the eyes of Stone Cold Steve Austin, you will know that your ass is mine. And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Heel Bret only works because of Austin and DX. If it wasn't for them carrying the load of the storyline, it would never have worked. This gets a resounding A+. Austin is on fire here.
Another fantastic Austin promo. Need we say more? After that, though, we got a montage. We got a Hall of Fame montage for Ivan Putsky. This is really meant to hype the debut of Scott Putsky, his son, in singles competition. But since we criticized WCW for it, I'm going to criticize WWF. The montage of Ivan Putsky features a lot of footage of him beating Rowdy Piper's ass, and I don't think that was a coincidence. I think that was a choice.
Yeah.
Anyways, we got Scott Putsky versus Leif Cassidy, and it's 4 minutes and 6 seconds.
JR calls Leif Cassidy a highly underrated talent, and he's right. Ivan Putsky wins with a German suplex, which seems like an odd choice for a Polish man. Leif Cassidy is upset and pushes around the ref before attacking Putsky. Putsky eventually gets the upper hand, and this segment kind of just fizzles out after he clotheslines Leif Cassidy out of the ring. Gets a C from me.
Well, all right. After that, we got the Legion of Doom versus PG-13.
Yeah.
Man, beat their asses. 2 minutes.
My first note is, so PG-13 is going to win this, right? PG-13 doesn't want to be in this match, but Farooq forces them because it's just billed as Legion of Doom versus Nation of Domination. So you'd assume Crush and Savio Vega. Farooq says, nah, you crack is going to get in the ring. And there may or may not be a reason for that later on, but we'll get there. I do also believe that this is heading to their eventual removal from the group. So hopefully we're getting close to that. Legion of Doom hits the Doomsday device on both members of PG-13, not just one, for the win. It gets a C for me. It was entertaining enough. PG-13 does a really good job being scared shitless, which they should be. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I think that does. I think the way that was handled was fun because, like you said, they didn't know they were wrestling, and Farouk's like, "No, you guys getting some action. You getting your beaks wet," and they were like, "No," because they know they're gonna get destroyed, and they do, and it pleased me. After that, we get the Jim Ross report. He's got some news on Psycho Sid, but you gotta call to find out more because they knocked WCW for doing that. I'm gonna bring it up till the day I die because they made a whole series of videos making fun of them for having the toll-free hotline, and now I feel like now they do it sometimes more than WCW does it. Like they're all about the go on the AOL chat room,
Right.
go on the toll line, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Anyways, after that, we got Mankind in the back. He's got Uncle Paul with him, whose face is still all burned up, and he just don't want the cameras to see poor Uncle Paul looking like that. And it's sad, it's tragic.
It is.
We go to commercial, we come back, and we got Mankind on the ramp, and he's now ready to do some talking, isn't he, Joseph?
He is. Mankind tells us that he brought forth a great wall of flame to the Undertaker. His goal was to permanently scar the Undertaker, but he wasn't successful. At Revenge of the Taker, he vowed to finish the job. He says if Taker has a problem with what he's done, he's a big boy, and take it out on him, not Paul Bearer. He calls Taker a coward. Paul Bearer is self-conscious about his appearance, and he pleads with the crowd to show some compassion as he brings out his Uncle Paul. This, of course, does not happen because the crowd starts booing him and jeering him. Paul Bearer comes out completely bandaged over his face, and I mean completely over the whole thing. It's so absurd, it's fantastic. Mankind says that he knows Uncle Paul has been keeping a secret, but the truth shall set him free. Paul Bearer says the flame that put him in the hospital has seared the sacred bond he and Taker once had. Bearer says Taker knows when he speaks the truth that he will give Taker one more chance for he and Taker to get back together, or he will spill the secret that he carries. He says he made the secret while standing over the gravesite of Taker's mother and father. This on its surface is absolutely insane, what we just witnessed. And this wouldn't work if it wasn't for the fact that Mankind and Paul Bearer sell it perfectly. And I loved every moment of it. I'm giving it an A+.
I will allow all of it.
Yes.
Because we're getting Kane.
Yes.
And I don't care. Because Kane is awesome.
Yeah. Many moons from now, to be clear. It's not coming
whatever dumb storyline you need to drag out for like 6 months, like give it to me. I'm ready.
Yeah.
It's better than Glacier.
That's true.
It's better than the hype up for Glacier. After that, though, we had our hour number 2. We got the video. I only really mention it because WCW ain't got an hour number 2. And we start our hour number 2 with Vince talking with the new number 1 contender for the WWF World Championship, Farooq.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about Farooq, Joseph. The Farooq is on fire.
So I mentioned at the top of this show that we would be getting quite a few rants from me. This is number 2. The Heart sit inside the locker room, seemingly scheming. Vin Man asks, how does it feel to be the number 1 contender for the WWF title? Farooq says it feels great, and it's time for Farooq to become the World Wrestling Federation champion. He then asks, when was the last time WWF had a black man wear the belt? Oh, yes, we're going there. Farooq points out that it's never happened. This is true, actually. In fact, I don't think there has been one even in WCW after Ron Simmons, now Farooq, won it in 1992. I looked it up, and WCW doesn't see the next African-American to win the world title until the year 2000 with Booker T. WWF doesn't see an African-American world champ until 1998, with somebody who may or may not be getting booed a lot right now, potentially join the Nation of Domination and completely reinvent his career. We'll just wait and see. He says you've had token black men with minor championships. He calls out Vin Man and even the audience for not feeling a black man is worthy of being champ, but is worthy of serving white men. He says that he is taking this into his own hands and with his boots and fists. Vin Man says this has nothing to do with black and white. And Farooq says it has everything to do with black and white. And that their white savior, the Undertaker, will be a dead man. Vin Man says these comments are racist, which is so fucking tone deaf. Just insane. Farooq says there are black boys and girls who feel his anger and frustration, and that he will take this into his own hands. I really like Farooq in this promo, and he's actually spot on. This seems to be a major push for Farooq. I say it seems to be, it isn't, but it does seem to be. This is an interesting issue because recently, and this is where the rant comes in, Shawn Swerve Strickland of AEW tried to echo a similar sentiment about WWE. The problem is, it simply isn't the same issue in 2025 that it was in 1997. In 1997, 1,000% wrestlers of color were held down. You cannot convince me otherwise. And that is an important distinction. Wrestlers of color, not exclusively African Americans, but specifically all minorities. In fact, the closest you got to world champions who weren't white Americans were usually white Americans pretending to be from a different country or race, which very commonly happened. In the last 10 years, in today's WWE, a minority has been WWE Women's Champion 13 out of 30 reigns for almost 44% of the reigns. I looked at the Women's World Championship, 6 out of 30, which is 20%. I looked at the WWE Championship, 9 out of 27, which is 33%. And finally, the World Heavyweight title, 2 out of 5, which is 40%. Let's include the Universal Championship, which was a stupid title, but it was part of these, world championships. 2 out of the 14 for a only marginal 14%. Now, every single one of these titles that I just listed is considered a world championship by the company. These are your top guys or gals. So if we add just minorities divided by reigns, it's 32 out of 106, which is 30% of the reigns in the last 10 years have been by minorities. But representation does not just mean minorities. It also means other countries as well. I should mention at this point, Japanese wrestlers I've already included in minorities. So like Io Sky, Asuka, those won't be included in the remainder of this count. I've already included them once. When you include people from Britain, Scotland, Ireland, Germany, Australia, you get another 16 reigns across the various world titles, raising our level of world championship representation reigns to 45% in the last 10 years, which means only 55% of world champions in WWE in the last 10 years have been white Americans. Is that more than representation? Sure. Could there be more representation? Of course, there could always be. But at what point do you draw a line on what you're calling representation? Want me to get real accurate on you? I'm Mexican. You know this, Scott. The last time I saw a Mexican world champion was in 2011 in Alberto Del Rio, who admittedly is a douche nozzle, so less said better. I can sit here and say we aren't represented, or I could use my fucking brain and realize that one, representation has to be spread around, doesn't just include one group. And two, more importantly, fans dictate world champions far more than officials do. You want to know why Jey Uso is champion right now? Because fan support and sales. The same people who bitch about him as champion are the same people who yeet when he walks by. Now, back to Swerve Strickland. I looked into his claims about how AEW is representation. AEW has 2 world titles at the time of this recording. One for men, one for women. With the AEW World Championship, there have been 13 total reigns. 2 were minorities at the time of this recording. On the women's side, we have 14 total reigns, with 6 actually as minorities. And in interest of fairness, an additional 6 women are represented that are from one of the same countries that I outlined earlier. This does, in fact, give AEW the edge in representation with 51% of reigns. And I do applaud them for that. That's fantastic. But let's look at the African-American reigns that Swerve Strickland is pretending to represent. There have been 2 reigns in AEW history, 1 male and 1 female. Scott, can you guess who the male representative was of AEW title reigns for African-Americans?
Scorpio Sky?
No, it was Swerve Strickland, who doesn't give 2 shit about representation of multiple nations of people. Swerve Strickland cares about the representation of Swerve Strickland. And nothing exemplifies this more than when he folded in a face-to-face conversation with Booker T, only to call him out a few nights later after a pay-per-view went off air, because the fact of the matter is, he's a punk-ass bitch. Oh, by the way, I really enjoyed this Farooq segment, and it gets an A.
Well, all right then. I would also echo. There was a lot there. But I liked the segment. Absolutely. I thought it was a good segment. Farooq is, like you said, Farooq is kind of shooting like, man, guy's got a point here. And I like when bad guys make points. And I've said this, I would have put the belt on Farooq, but it does not happen. It does not happen. But I guess he's going to go up against The Undertaker. He's the number 1 contender. And that leads us to an Undertaker match. We got Undertaker versus Savio Vega. Mm-hmm. And let me see. Let me look here. Let me get my peepers on the time. 4 minutes.
Savio Vega gets more offense in this than I honestly expected. Eventually, though, Taker hits a choke slam and then fights off the nation. He hits a tombstone while he has the pin, the Nation gang up on him for the DQ. It's fine. Giving it a C. It's pretty much copy and paste what they've been doing with the Nation. Kind of to your point, I do think that Farooq should have probably been champion at this point because number one, his storytelling is how do you have him do this story and not make him champion?
Yeah.
Number two, I think we're about at a point where they're about to pivot what the Nation is into almost Nation 2.0. And I think they could have done
Good
that.
Nation.
Well, no, that's the Nation before the Good Nation. Because remember, there's Nation 2.0 and then there's Good Nation.
Oh, yeah.
I think what
There's
they
a lot
could
of
have done, what they could have done is make that pivot first, and then he wins the title because now he's got these new people with him. But anyways, we're getting ahead of it. I gave this a C. It's fine. It's whatever.
After that, we got Sable. She wants you to buy an Austin 316 t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And I own an Austin 316 t-shirt, so thanks, Sable.
I was wondering where that was going, and I'm so glad it landed the way it did. I was like, uh-oh.
I mean, I got one.
Yeah.
After that, we've got kind of some history, I feel like. A little history making. We got Rob Van Dam. But we also got a little whippersnapper named Jeffrey Hardy.
Probably won't be.
Of the Hardy Boys. And when I say the Hardy Boys, I mean the children's novels.
Yes, absolutely.
That Hardy Boy.
That's how you can tell he's 87, because that's the reference he made.
Yeah. They're good books. I like them before they got all the PC stuff put in them. Anyways, that is apparently true. They were a bit more gritty originally, and they took some of that stuff out in the 50s. Yeah. That's what I read. Now I kind of want to read them. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, we got to get you those OG copies. Yeah.
Yeah. Are they killing people? What are they doing? Anyways, 2 minutes, 29 seconds. Tell me about RVD versus, well, let me see if Jeff's got a middle name. JNH.
Is his middle name actually Nero? Jeffrey Nero Hardy? Is that his middle name?
That's what the internet tells me.
Because I've heard I thought Nero was just like a stage name. Anyways, whatever. Who cares? So we don't actually know Rob Van Dam is coming out at this point. Jerry Lawler has a surprise that he can't wait to share with us. Then Rob Van Dam from ECW makes his WWF debut and faces some guy that'll never become a major player. I don't see anything coming with this kid's career. Anyways, it is funny because this matchup is going to be one that we love to watch for years to come. And honestly, this one itself is pretty fucking good. Jerry grabs the microphone and he talks about ECW, calling it extremely crappy wrestling. He says he has found another man who has been in ECW and knows how bad it is in Rob Van Dam. RVD calls ECW low-budgeted and low-talented wrestlers who can't hang with him. Jerry Lawler declares RVD Mr. Monday Night, which I think is the first time that he's ever been called that. That will become obviously a nickname of his for a while. RVD immediately dominates on offense and hits a monster Tope Con hero. You can also call it a sunset flip. Regardless, it's fucking awesome. RVD has one of the all-time unique and great offenses in wrestling history, in my opinion. Like RVD in his prime is just so much fun to watch because the things he did, no one else was doing. And it's just, like watching him now, it's like I saw some like people posting like a meme where it was like name like your different things of like wrestling, like the person who got you into wrestling, like you're the wrestler who got you into wrestling, your current favorite wrestler, your childhood favorite wrestler, your comfort wrestler. I think Rob Van Dam might be my comfort wrestler. Like he is just so much fun to just watch because it's just so entertaining every time. Anyways, the crowd chants, "You sold out." And then RVD hits a 5-star frog splash, but this is not his finisher at the time. It's actually his split-legged moonsault, which he hits next for the win. This gets an A for the debut. Match itself is probably a generous B. It's fun, but it is obviously very one-sided. Jeff Hardy at this point is just a pure jobber. But if you're new to the podcast and you haven't only been watching as long as our YouTube's kind of started to move up, important debuts we give A's, or I give A's to. So this is getting an A. It's fantastic. It's a lot of fun.
Love JN8. and RVD. After that, though, we get the highlight of the night, which I assume is going to be rant number 3.
No.
The sit down. No, you're not going to rant about this?
No.
Wow. You don't want to talk about it. You just
That's
don't want, you want
exactly
to
it.
keep
Yeah.
going. Part 2 of our sit down interview with Dustin and Terry Reynolds, and it's even more uncomfortable than the first one because they bring their daughter into it now.
Yeah.
And this is too close to home for me because this is a little uncomfortably real, and I don't like it. Tell me about it, Joseph.
Dustin is crying about his lost relationship with his father. And like you said, this is rough. He talks about how he loves seeing his daughter look up to him, which I do think works, by the way. I think that is fine. But then he just keeps talking directly into the camera. And I say directly into the camera, but I mean directly to Dusty Rhodes.
Yes.
And he is crying. I'm not joking. There are tears streaming down his face. And he's saying he loves him. And it's so uncomfortable because there is no storyline reason for any of this to happen. Before I give this an F.
This is just Vince being petty.
Yes.
And wanting to do something to hurt WCW at Dustin, Terry, and Dusty's.
And now Dakota.
Yeah. At their expense. Oh.
Real quickly, this is getting an F. This is bad. But I will real quickly give props to Terry on this, Terry Reynolds. I think she realizes how dumb this is, and she is very clearly trying to support Dustin through all of this nonsense. She honestly seemed like a really good wife. We're not going to go into their whole split. We've talked about that. This had to have been tough for her to watch Dustin going through, and she is very clearly being supportive. So I got to give her props for that, but this is a bad segment.
Well, because I think obviously some of it's probably a little dramatized for the show, but I think this is probably really how he feels. Like, he and his dad have had a really rough split, and ew.
Yeah.
Don't do this, Vince. Please stop it. Which I think this is the last one
This
they
is
do.
they start definitely going into his family, but this is the last, like, hey, we're going to target Dusty kind of thing.
Yeah. So thank God.
Yeah.
But speaking of families, Jim Roscoe's the Undertaker, and the Undertaker says, Paul Bearer, shut your mouth about my family. Because he just says some shit just shouldn't be talked about. And by the way, he's going to kill Farooq.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the promo. You got anything more you want to?
Well, I do love this is clearly pre-recorded, and here's how you know. JR directly asked about Paul Bearer, and then Taker starts by saying, JR, if I can, I'd like to take some time to address Paul Bearer. It made me chuckle. It's not important because it's like, yeah, JR already gave away that's what you're doing. Anyways, he talks about all the stuff that you said. I think, he does say he will unlock a demon to help him win, which I think is a little bit eerily too close to the whole Kane thing. That obviously is not what's going to happen. It's just Taker nonsense. I gave this a C. It's fine. It's whatever.
I mean, he's just got a bag full of tricks. And he just got a demon. Here's a demon. There's lots of demons.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a different demon.
Yeah.
I don't know. After that, though, we got like a 40-man tag team match. We got the Bulldog and Owen Hart. We got the Headbangers. We got the New Blackjacks. And we got Doug Furnace and Phil LaFon in a 4-way elimination match for the WWF Tag Team Championship, 7 minutes, 18 seconds. Tell me about this fatal 4-way. Is a fatal 4-way different than a regular 4-way?
No, it's the same.
All right, then tell me about this fatal 4-way.
We got this exact match at WrestleMania 13 a few months ago. The lone exception is that match had the Godwins, and this one has Owen and Bulldog instead. Furnace and LaFon lose easily when Barry Windham hits a clothesline on one of them and pins them. During the commercial, Furnace and LaFon apparently help the Headbangers eliminate the New Blackjacks. The Headbangers think they have the win, but Owen's foot was on the rope. Bulldog eventually beats the illegal man with an Oklahoma slam. This is fine. It's way too much going on. I don't think they needed 4 teams in this. It's a C for me.
Yeah, we didn't need it again.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, I feel like kind of the reason they did this was just to justify Owen and Bulldog being out there.
Yeah, I think so.
Because now we got a story, and Jim Neidhart, Brian Pillman, and Bret come down to the ring. Bret tells everyone to go back to the dressing room because I guess that makes a lot of sense. You know, crippled Bret, completely defenseless. What could go wrong, Joseph?
Well, he does say that he needs to be a man and do this himself. They begrudgingly do leave. In fact, Hart calls out Austin and says if he thinks about coming out, his pack of lions will come back and rip Austin to shreds. He says his surprise is he wants that gutless little poser, Shawn Michaels, to come out. I'm going to let you know ahead of time, this is the third and final rant. Shawn obliges. Bret Hart says he can't stand HBK and he hates his guts. He then starts listing reasons as Shawn takes his jacket off, clearly to try to get physical at some point. HBK is waiting for his cue as he's supposed to end this segment with a sweet chin music. Bret just unloads on him for like 10 minutes, and Shawn has to just stand there because Bret isn't hitting the cue. The only notable thing that Bret Hart says is that HBK is a degenerate. I don't know if they were teasing Degeneration X at this point, but it is a good line. It will foreshadow later on. Beyond that, he's only bringing up personal things while Shawn has to just watch and wait the entire time. Bret smiles a wry smile a couple of times throughout this because he knows exactly what he's doing. He claims he doesn't, but he fucking does. This show goes off the air with Shawn looking stupid. After the show wraps, many minutes later, Bret says, "You'd like to hit me, but you don't have the insides to do it," and Shawn delivers a perfect sweet chin music. The Harts run out, they attack Shawn, and then Stone Cold helps drive them off. But we see none of this if you're tuning in live. You obviously will see it if you watch it now, but you wouldn't have seen it. You have to see it on replay the following week on Raw. This, before I go into the rant, has to get an F because Bret sandbags this hard. So Bret Hart has talked about this, his recount of the situation in his book, My Real Life in the Cartoon World of Wrestling. At the end of the show, with the idea that I'd soon be working with Shawn at King of the Ring, I called Shawn into the ring. The last 30 seconds were supposed to be mine, and then Shawn would give me his super kick, toppling me backward out of my wheelchair as the show went off air. But the fan noise was so loud, I couldn't hear my cue. It wasn't. Watch it. I felt bad about it, but Shawn thought I did it on purpose and was furious. I told him that they had the footage of him super kicking me out of my wheelchair, which they could replay all week on Vince's other shows, and they did over and over. That's the end of the quote. This is a recurring Bret theme. Anything he did that was wrong was simply a mistake. That's it. And anything that Shawn did that was wrong was purely vindictive. Here is Shawn's retelling from his book, Heartbreak and Triumph. It is important to note here that Shawn does not specify that this is the same show, whereas Bret did. He specified this show. Shawn does, however, say that next week he made the Sunny Days comment, so that has to be this show because next week is when Sunny Days happens. Bret was such a hypocrite. He said it was over. We shook hands, and I thought we had finally put it all behind us. Bret and I were scheduled to do an interview segment. It was supposed to be a wrestling promo. He talks bad about me, and I talk bad about him. That's how it works. Well, he went on this tirade and just didn't stop. It was a while before I got my rebuttal in. As I made my way backstage, someone told me that they had gone on so long, or that he had gone on so long, that they had to go off air before I spoke. Technically not speak, super kick. So the whole time, viewers saw me standing there look like an idiot. I was furious. He had done it to me for the last time. I was now going to take the gloves off. He had pushed and pushed and pushed me some more. It was like kids teasing me about my name when I was in elementary school. If you keep pushing me, I'm going to eventually fight back. He was insensitive, selfish, spoiled, and cruel. All the things he claimed he was in spades. Now, I want to stop and talk about this because if you are a Bret Hart got screwed person, I need you to know you are wrong. The entire,
it's the Twitter all over it.
the entire 1997 up until the screw job is Vince putting Bret Hart, his family, and all of his friends front and center. It actually gets obnoxious, and we're not even fucking close to it yet. I have no doubt that Vince let Shawn's ego run wild. There's no question in my mind. It's well documented. We all know. But he bent over backwards for Bret's ego. And the last few weeks are clear evidence of this. He let Bret reform the Hart Foundation, added a close personal friend in the stable in Brian Pillman, rehired a basically out of his prime Jim the Anvil Neidhart, all just to make Bret happy. This will get worse in the next few months with Vince doing even more for Bret and Bret trying to strong arm Vince and Shawn at every turn. Bret Hart is in no way a victim. Owen Hart is a victim. Bret Hart is a false idol. He has made a retirement career of pretending to be a martyr, telling everyone who will listen how wronged he was. He gaslights fans and supporters, and he is excellent at it. All the while, the people who supposedly wronged him never bring him up because they simply don't spend time or energy thinking about him. In the Pride and Prejudice miniseries, and I do not believe this line is in the book. I'm dead serious about this. There's a character. There's a character whose name is George Wickham. He's a very charming character, but he's also detestable when you find out about him. Because of the charm, he characterizes himself as a martyr and who is wronged by Mr. Darcy, one of the main characters. Mr. Bennett, who is Elizabeth, the protagonist's father, remarks of Wickham after meeting him, quote, "It was very good of him to entertain us so eloquently of stories of his misfortunes. With such narratives to hand, who would read novels?" End quote. What Mr. Bennett is saying here is anyone who needs to make sure everyone knows how they're wrong is probably far more at fault than they're letting on. The narrative characterizes a perspective. The novel characterizes a truth. It is a fabulous line that helps you identify con men, and Bret Hart is a con man. This gets an F.
Wow. Bret, who is a big fan of the pod, is never listening again. My God, man. My God. None of this has to do with you being a huge Shawn Michaels fanboy, does it? None of this.
Shawn is a real piece of shit this time, but the difference is he admits it.
Okay. All right. I've got a couple of notes that I want to, a couple of notes here. First of all, you mentioned people making fun of Shawn's name. And I just want to say for people who don't know, Shawn's real name is Hickenbottom.
Yeah.
So that's what, when you heard that part, you were like, why would people make fun of Shawn Michaels? That's not his real name. His name is Shawn Hickenbottom. So he's used to kind of bully. The point is he's used to bullies and Bret's a bully.
Right.
Second point is I love this. I love this because it starts them shooting at each other every single night, and it's crazy.
Yeah, it gets insane.
And I think this kind of is what leads us to the screw job. I mean, this is it.
I'm trying to think if it's this or if I would consider it something else.
I mean, I think
it's got to be this.
Yeah. Because he didn't want to drop the title to Shawn in Canada. I don't think he wants to drop the title to Shawn, period, but especially not in Canada. And I think this is the start of the screw job right here.
Yeah.
And the screw job is one of the most fascinating, infamous incidents in wrestling. And this starts it. And I'm like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Because I'm really excited to talk about the screw job when we get there. We're going to get into a lot of it. That's when I'm going to give my opinions about Bret Hart. I'm gonna let you just shit on Bret for however long you want to do it. But a commenter did ask us a comment which you rudely answered at WrestleMania 13, which I was not invited to. A podcast that I was not invited to, where you rudely answered this question from one of our listeners about.
And like Bret Hart, you are telling a half truth right now.
Whatever. And the question was, why are people so hot on Bret? He doesn't seem that good. And I am gonna, at the Montreal Screwjob, so you got to keep listening for like 8 more years. I am gonna tell you all. I'm gonna let it all out about Bret and my feelings about Bret, and we'll see how it goes. It may end the friendship. My opinions on Bret may end the friendship. They won't, because spoilers. Yeah, I kind of agree with Joseph, but not as vitriolically, perhaps, as you do.
What did I say that was vitriol?
I don't know, man. You don't like Bret. It's clear.
But what did I say that isn't true?
We gotta save it for the screw job. We gotta save it for the screw job.
Tell me when I'm telling lies, which is an ironic line to use for a huge Bret Hart fan.
I'm gonna let it all hang out. We'll let it all hang out at the screw job.
As you wear your Owen Hart Best Hart shirt.
I do love me some Owen. So you gotta keep subscribing. If you're not subscribing, subscribe. The $2, like, subscribe, join the Patreon. $2. If you want to see it all hang out, you gotta get on the Patreon, because that's when the screw job happens. And I think that does it for us, does it not?
I think so. I'm all ranted out.
Yeah. You need to recharge for next week.
Yeah.
When we join you again for the Monday Night Wars. I am Scott. With me, as always, is the Rant Master in Chief, Joseph. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.